Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, I'm Anita Putri. I'm from 4BC class. I will present a journal article with the title Narrative Life in Film and the Rule of Screenwriting Practice. The author of this journal article is Chris Dan. This journal article is from the Journal of Film and Video 2021. The volume number of this journal is 73. The issue number is 3. The publication year is on fall 2021. And the total pages of this journal is 15. The introduction. There are limits to what can be portrayed in film. A particular realm that screenwriters have engaged with some difficulties, is that of death. That is outside the daily experience of the audience and writers, so there are not common references that can be used. This research will explore the underlying discursive constraints on writer using a two-advanced approach. An overview of a number of mainstream Anglophone films that portray the dead as characters will be considered in terms of the concept of narrative life. This form of life enables filmmakers to tell their stories about the dead and the undead. The meaning of Anglophone is consisting of or belonging to an English-speaking population, especially in a country where two or more languages are spoken. Analysis of this journal article can provide theory-based understanding of the expression limits of a script. Also aims to broaden the discussion about the extent to which audience take listen from a film. To understand the limits of what the author thinks mainstream scenarios they can say in movies, articles, it will use the work of Michel Foucault. Core concept used is their discursive practice. The meaning of discursive is logic. The idea that writers take proper scenario writing practice so that film can be produced. Foucault is three categories of control being those that are internal to the discourse that are external, and those are neither fully internal nor fully external to the discourse. In other words, discourse are system of knowledge that operates to constrain what may be expressed by those who are exhibiting proper product for the discourse. Next, screenwriters. When writing a screenplay, must demonstrate specific writing and stay aware of boundaries, as opposite to when they wrote a diary or a letter of complaint. So, where someone is expressing a practice relating to a specific discourse, then other members of the discourse may judge the exhibition of the practice as good, bad, or indifferent with respect to the norm of the discourse. Of course, any person will be constituted by a number of discourse. As a result, screenwriting practice will be judged against the standard of screenwriting, whereas behavior on the road will be judged against the norm of a road behavior. Therefore, a writer must pay attention. Three form of practice they need to be a different normative practice. Practice of habit, spontaneous practice. The distinction between normative practice and practice of habit is important because screenwriters have to experience certain practice to be seen as a screenwriters. However, their job is to portray a range of practice on screen. Next. The problem narrative life. The central concept of this article, narrative life, may now be introduced with the concept later deconstructed in like of Foucault is theory. Screenwriters are faced with a problem: the dead cannot speak and the dead cannot move, not in reality anyway. Yet there are a number of films that show that character moving, talking, and expressing other practice of habit. The argument here is that the screenwriter have developed a set of normative practice around narrative life that portray these characters in terms of life, even though they are obviously dead. For film characters, as well as members of the audience, there are a number of features that show what appears to be life. These features are that the person or the character is one is animated, two is capable of interacting, three is capable of being destroyed, and four is has an awareness of their capacity of distraction. This is what may be referred to a narrative life. If these criteria are met, then a scriptwriter will help the audience feel the character of the film being shown, and the music convey from the film will be easily understood by the audience. Then, what if a movie has dead or undead characters? What a screenwriter must do if he wants the audience to continue to enjoy the film and able to understand the storyline. Remember when watching a film, we use feeling and we absorb the story that is shown so that we can feel the feel of the film. If a movie with a dead or undead them will the audience be able to understand? Because we know that in our life there are no undead people, then this is a problem and the challenge for writers who figure out stories about dead people or ghosts or undead. The example of the film is George Romero is Dawn of the Dead, 1978. This is an example of a zombie genre film. In this film, there are undead running, chasing. They have no dialect but have an important role in this film. How come? It's because the author described the undead as the main source of the conflict. Even though it has no dialect, the author makes the undead character become antagonists who become enemies of the main character. Will the audience feel the feel of this film? Yes, of course, because the audience will position themselves as if they will face a zombie outbreak in the future. They will pay attention to the details and advantages of the main character so that they feel they will be able to apply it in the future if there is a zombie outbreak. The second film is from In the Hunger, 1973. Johnny is a vampire who meets the criteria of a narrative life, though he may not to be the protagonist. He animates and interacts with other characters. However, on the one hand, he has incapable of being destroyed. On the other hand, is capable of death narratives. So, how do the audience enjoy this film? This film is able to make the audience think that in our current life, there may be a vampire among us. The conflict of this film will make the audience feel like a vampire among many humans. So the audience will still enjoy this movie even though they never know what it's like to be a vampire. The last film is from Night Shyamalan is The Sixth Sense. The role of Malcolm is since living and interacting with Cole, who is a child who has the ability to interact with the dead. Malcolm doesn't realize that he is dead, and this is the plot twist of this film. The story push the boundaries of the notion that the protagonist must live a narrative in order for the story to work. Of the three examples of films that just been described, all of these films have different genres, and all of these films depict the main problem of a writer who struggle because he feel like because every writer feel like a film must have a narrative life so that the audience can enjoy the films. These three films are proof that not all film must have a narrative life. We can also use that ghost, undead, monster, vampire character, and many more, but we still have to pay attention to the norm of discourse that exists in society, and we still have to know the limits in making a film scenario. Narrative life and discursive practice of screenwriters. It was stated previously that screenwriters are, as are all discursive subjects, constrained by their discourse. There is a value in rehearsing some of these constraints in order to better form the discussion of narrative life. A number of constraints relate to screenwriters' position within the industry, some to the norm of the screenplay and some to other aspect of lives, as even the most dedicated writers is more than just a scribe. Okay, the last is conclusion. The, the purpose of this article was threefold. The first purpose was to draw out the similarities of a number of films that purport to show unlike characters, and the second was to place this understanding of narrative life within the context of the screenwriting discourse. That latter goal was to demonstrate that the practice around narrative life still comply with a number of rules. The discursive practice that limits what can be shown on screen. The suggestions there before is that if a screenwriter wish to include that characters, then there are still rules to be followed in order for the audience to relate it to them. The third purpose of the article was to highlight the normative role that character with unlike play. We as audience member participate in the reverse gaze. We live our lives and fear our deaths in the light of the screen. That's all for my presentation, guys. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.